Several times now we have talked about ceteris paribus, where we're going to hold everything else constant. And we're going to develop a market where the market is going to work towards equilibrium, and then the price will essentially stay there, providing nothing else is going on, holding all else constant, or ceteris paribus. Well, in the real world, not everything is held constant, and things do change. So what happens whenever we have an external force come in and change a supply or demand relationship? Whenever that happens, we have a shift. A shift is a change in a relationship, in either the supply or the demand relationship. If you remember back to one of the last lessons, that a supply or a demand is a relationship between price and quantity. And provided nothing else happens, ceteris paribus, that relationship will stay the same. Well, there are external forces that change these ceteris paribus conditions and cause a shift in the supply or demand. So a shift is a change in that relationship, and it's known as a change in the ceteris paribus condition. Then another thing that we must note is that if you have a quantity supplied or quantity demanded change, it's called a movement, and that's a movement along the supply or demand curve. Whereas a change or a shift is a brand new relationship. So let's talk about that a little bit real quick. A shift is when we have this brand new relationship. So this graph right here, this table, shows a change in the demand relationship. These two boxes show the original demand relationship. We said that this was the prices, and this is the quantities that they are going to be buying at ceteris paribus. Under the old market, this is the amount, this is a series of prices, these are the series of quantities. But let's say an external force came in, something happened to change this relationship. Now, if we look at it, we have the price here, and then a new quantity demanded, or a new relationship. So under the old relationship, at $1, the amount of units that you'd be willing to buy was 15 units. Now, you're only willing to buy 13.9. At $1.50, the quantity demanded was 12.5, now it's only 10. At $2, that was 9, now it's at 4.5. And at $2.50, you were willing to buy 4.5 units, now you're not willing to buy any. So we have this brand new relationship. It's a brand new relationship, demand relationship, and this is a shift in the demand curve. Versus if we talk about movements, so if we talk about a quantity supplied or quantity demanded change, that's a movement from along the demand curve or along this point. So if we changed our prices from $1.50 to $2, then the amount that is going to be consumed decreases by 3.5 units. That is a movement along that curve, or a movement in that table. That is not a shift. A shift is a brand new relationship. And this is how it looks on a graph. So we have the original, we still have a supply curve here, and we have the original demand curve in blue. That original demand curve has now been shifted. This is an inward shift. This is a leftward shift. We have a brand new demand curve, and this second demand curve reflects this new demand relationship. And because of that inward shift in demand, it also shifts up or changes our equilibrium. Originally, our equilibrium point was there. That's where quantity supplied equals quantity demanded. That was that old intersection. At that old intersection, the prices was at $2.15, and quantity was around 7.75 units. Now, because of the shift in demand, we have a brand new demand relationship. We draw this new demand curve, and we can graphically see that the new equilibrium quantity has actually fallen to about 6.25, and the equilibrium price has also fallen to about 1.9 or $1.90. So because of this shift in this relationship, because of the shift in demand, we now have a new equilibrium price and a new equilibrium quantity, which we can see here. Whenever we have a shift in the supplier demand curve, we will have a new relationship, a new supplier demand. This is going to originally cause disequilibrium. So whenever this shifts, now this is a continual process. Whenever this shifts, and the new equilibrium price is here, but the old price is still up here, it causes originally a surplus. Because what happens is, we're still working off of the old price. This is right after the shift occurs, right after it occurs. We're working off of the old price because prices haven't adjusted yet. So we're still looking at this old price, but now we're looking at the new demand curve and the old supply curve. Under that assumption, we have a price that's way up here, and the amount that's being demanded at that old price is non-existent. It's not even there. Or the amount that they're demanding for in this case would be somewhere around 1 unit whenever producers are willing to supply 7.75 units. Now we have a separation between quantity supplied and quantity demanded. Quantity supplied is higher than quantity demanded because at $2.15 under the new demand curve, the consumers are only willing to demand about 2 units. So because of that, what you see is prices have to come down because we're in a surplus. Again, quantity supplied is larger than quantity demanded, and it forces those prices down. But as the prices are coming down, the amount that producers are willing to supply is also falling. And that's that movement along that supply curve. That's a change in that quantity supplied, a movement along the supply curve. And because of that, the amount that they are willing to supply is now fallen, and it will continue to fall until they reach that new equilibrium point.